Hello everyone, and welcome to our 5th annual Montgomery County Top 10, a look back at the work we've done together over the past year, the challenges we've faced, and the progress we've made despite the extraordinary pressure from the federal government. 2025 was a year when our residents, county government employees, nonprofits, businesses, and community partners demonstrated what it means to show up for one another. I want to walk through 10 moments that define 2025, moments that show who we are, what we value, and how we continue to move forward, even in the face of historic challenges. We'll cover this list over the next 2 weeks, 10 to 6 this week and 5 to 1 next week. Let's get started. Number 10, honoring our history and preparing for the 250th anniversary. We started the year with a renewed commitment to honoring the people and places that shape Montgomery County. We officially named the county's executive office building after former county executive Ike Leggett, a mentor and a public service of the highest integrity, and someone who has spent decades fighting for fairness and opportunity. We celebrated the reopening of the Scotland AME Zion Church in Potomac, a congregation that survived segregation, displacement, and fire, and still stands as a living reminder of strength and community. And we honored the history of Poolesville's Rosenwald School with an historical marker, recognizing one of the few buildings left in the county that educated black children before integration. Montgomery County lost several significant residents in 2025, such as African-American living legend Ida Pearl Green, automotive dealership businessman Jack Fitzgerald, as well as Gaithersburg resident and McGeo shop steward and ride-on bus operator Ruiz Spill, who passed away from a heart attack while doing his job. In his final moments, he ensured that the bus came to a safe stop. We're also preparing for Montgomery County's 250th anniversary in 2026, a year when we will reflect on our history honestly and highlight how far we've come from the days of redlining, covenants, and exclusion to become one of the most diverse communities in the entire country. Number 9, a year of planning toward the wrong direction. One of the biggest stories this year was planning and zoning. How we use our land is one of the most important responsibilities at the local level. Unfortunately, the planning board, and in some cases the council, ignored reality, ignored data, and ignored the people who actually live here. The sad story is how planning is no longer a community-driven process, with residents, developers, and others at the table, assisted by park and planning staff. These committees used to discuss and vote on proposals and develop master plans together. I know because I served on one. Now residents are out of the process except for sticky notes that they're asked to place on boards, which will be promptly disregarded. They have no votes in the process anymore, no role in decisions, and the planning staff has changed from assisting to directing the process, disregarding what people say. It's unfortunate that board members, some of whom disdain their communities openly, are replacing the democratic process. Last year, the planning board recommended the attainable housing strategies. 82% of single-family homes would have been upzoned. No real affordability requirement, no real connection to what residents wanted, and when people finally got a chance to speak, the reaction was overwhelmingly negative. 2 council members said the plan wasn't ready and shouldn't move forward. They were right. It never answered the basic question, does this help people who need housing that they can afford? The answer was no. That theme kept repeating itself in 2025. In March, the council introduced More Housing Now package. It had some good ideas, especially the home ownership part, but unfortunately it had no ownership requirement, and the zoning provisions created more problems than they solved. The planning board and council actions were based on the false premise that we need to change zoning in order to produce more housing. But that is not true. We already have more than enough zoning to accommodate the growth and housing targets for 2050 and beyond. These numbers come from Park and Planning and COG. They show both the jobs and the housing units that we're going to need. And we have more than that in our master plans by a lot. Master plans already provide zoning all over the county, 1,000 more units than are needed. And it's planned smart growth along the corridors of future job growth near transit and activity centers. Adding zoning elsewhere draws development away from smart growth areas. And the forecast for the amount of housing needed has actually been reduced because housing growth is tied to job growth, and estimates for job growth were reduced. The forecast may have been reduced, but the number of zoned units continues to increase with every master plan. We do not have a zoning problem. And if the planning board thinks the problem is that people want different housing types, then why haven't they re-examined the approved but unbuilt master plans and put the right housing types in those plans? Oddly enough, they're not doing that. In fact, they've approved new plans that have just come through the planning board without the housing types they say they need. Curiously or not, this is what they've done. Nor have they reevaluated their excessive use of high-rise zoning, which raises the cost of land and disincentivizes the types of housing that are in demand. The high-rises are not being built for a straightforward reason. The market for expensive high-rise units is limited and doesn't match the incomes of most county residents here or those who are protected to move here in the future. In April, I vetoed Bill 225, which gave away 20 years of property taxes for a commercial property to residential conversion in buildings that are more than 50% vacant. This was done without any demonstration of need. In fact, we showed the council multiple successful office-to-housing conversions, and all of them were done without subsidies. None of them came and asked for subsidies. These are now feasible, and Park and Planning actually did a report that said it was feasible. Yet the council, under the encouragement of certain council members, insisted on this massive giveaway. Every dollar that we give away like this is a dollar that doesn't show up in our capital budget, and it's a dollar that has to be replaced by money from you. Just keep that in mind. They ignored the evidence and passed the legislation. This giveaway is estimated to cost the county millions of dollars in revenue that we need for schools, transit, and core services rather than lining the pockets of millionaires. And since demand is limited, a successful conversion project would replace a fully taxable project that would have been built instead. By summer, we watched the council pass ZTA 2502, and the concerns were the same. No real affordability, no protection for renters, no meaningful community process. Then came the University Boulevard Corridor Plan. This was the first of a new corridor planning approach justified by Thrive 2050, and it is a flawed approach. It ignored the basic conditions on the ground. There is no BRT line planned there anytime soon, no infrastructure to support increases in density, and no protection for naturally occurring affordable homes that are already existing in the community. The council's own analysis showed that the so-called workforce housing on that corridor would be priced for households earning more than $170,000 a year, up to $200,000 a year for a family of four. That is far beyond what most of our workforce earns, and for Black and brown families whose income is half of white and Asian families, we're creating yet another community that we're designing to be segregated. That does nothing for the families who actually live there. Most will be displaced. Residents pointed out the environmental issues, the traffic issues, the school impacts, and the potential for displacement. Planning brushed those concerns aside. The maps were drawn so narrowly that you couldn't even evaluate the full impact on the community. And the most striking part is that this is meant as a model for corridor planning everywhere in the county. If this approach goes countywide, communities across Montgomery County will see the same thing, a process that shuts them out, pushes density into the wrong places while ignoring decades of smart growth policy and planning that focused on transit centers and activity hubs. You can probably guess which part of the county that has huge lots was exempted from any of this. So while they're claiming that we're desperate to zone for housing and that there's no other choice but to go into the older neighborhoods, it's odd that you're not evaluating areas with the least density that aren't in the ag reserve. I find that strange. Throughout this year, I kept coming back to one simple point. Planning should be rooted in facts, not slogans. We already planned for future growth. That work doesn't disappear just because some people decided they didn't like the results. We can build more housing, and we have to build more housing, but it has to be the right housing in the right places and with the infrastructure to support it, with real protections for affordability and without more giveaways to the real estate industry. We've supported major affordable projects, both rental and for sale. Allium Place, residences at Forest Glen, Bracken Square, the Chimes of North Bethesda, and more because they're in planned centers near transit and actually affordable. That's the work that moves us toward our goals. Upzoning for the sake of upzoning won't get us there. Giving away public revenue won't get us there. Ignoring the public won't get us there. My hope for next year is that we have a reset on this conversation. We can plan for growth while listening to residents, respecting the master plan process, and decisions should be based on data. That's how this county built strong neighborhoods to start with, and it's how we should move forward. During the 2025 General Assembly session, the leadership of our governor and state delegation made meaningful progress for Montgomery County. One of the several public safety wins was legislation that better protects all of us on the road. In 2023, Montgomery County Police Department Sergeant Pat Kep was out of his car on 270 trying to stop a speeding driver who targeted and deliberately hit him. Sergeant Kep lost both his legs, but has worked hard and is already back on duty. Sergeant Kep's tireless advocacy for state legislation was instrumental in its passage. And there was great news for Marylanders when it comes to improving health care. New legislation aims to lower prescription drug costs by expanding the authority of the Prescription Drug Affordability Board. I've long supported this effort because we have to stop the prescription drug companies from putting residents between a rock and a hard place. We need to take the brokers out of the drug supply system. Too many people are forced to sacrifice food for their families to keep pace with out-of-control drug prices. Some people just don't buy their medicine. What makes this situation infuriating is when you realize that you could go to Canada, Mexico, Colombia, or Europe and buy the same name brand drugs for less than you would pay in the United States. There's no rational reason for the price disparities other than our federal government's refusal to protect us from price gouging. The state also extended a successful health insurance subsidy program for young adults and is preparing for potential federal health care changes by establishing a state subsidy program and reinstating a commission to assess the impacts. And despite budget constraints, the legislature resisted major cuts to the vital Medicaid program. As the 2026 General Assembly is about to begin, our state will continue to face both budgetary challenges and continued defunding and negative impacts from the federal government. It is going to be a very difficult session, but I will continue to advocate for state investment in education, housing, infrastructure, and economic development. A lot of progress was made by our public safety departments in 2025, despite challenges and tragedies. MCBD made real progress on recruitment, helping build staffing levels after years of high vacancies. They established a landmark educational partnership with the University of Maryland Global Campus to expand professional development opportunities for department employees and their families. This partnership with our police gives our officers and their families an extraordinary opportunity to pursue higher education while continuing their service in the community. With benefits valued up to $60,000, this program can truly change the lives and futures of our officers, and it recognizes the value and hard work of their training, and it provides a clear pathway for professional growth. And we've expanded our successful Drone as First Responder program to Germantown, which brings the total locations to 5. And thanks to revised state laws, we are able to expand the number of speed cameras to slow down drivers and help save lives. Our fire and rescue team faced tragedy in 25. We lost 2 firefighters in the line of duty deaths, Master Firefighter Christopher Higgins in January and Firefighter Chris Kindell in October. While dealing with the year of loss, our fire and rescue team continued to display acts of heroism during the unprecedented flooding, where they rescued stranded drivers in situations that could have ended far differently. We also strengthened our 911 and emergency response systems with new equipment and expanded training. Our Office of Emergency Management and Homeland Security installed our first 2 Mesonet weather stations, improving storm forecasting and emergency response. And our Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation continues to innovate and invest to reduce recidivism through the Sweet Release program, which continues to get rave reviews by equipping participants with culinary skills and real-world job opportunities for new careers in local bakeries, such as Nothing Bundt Cakes, which hires some of our graduates from the program. Additionally, the department was awarded over $110,000 in a state grant that will expand and enhance the computer labs to increase access to devices and the internet. These efforts are helping ensure that those serving time also improve their skills for post-incarceration employment opportunities. Public safety remains one of the core responsibilities of government, and I'm grateful to every person in our public safety departments who serve this county every hour of the day, every day of the year to ensure our safety. Number 6, climate change. This was a landmark year for climate action in Montgomery County. We celebrate the 10th anniversary of Tree Montgomery, which has now planted thousands of shade trees across the county, reducing heat, island effect, improving air quality, and helping meet our carbon reduction goals. Since its launch in 2015, Tree Montgomery has planted 18,400 shade trees in the county, enriching communities and improving air quality and reducing urban heat, all while maintaining an impressive 93% tree survival rate. With an investment of $8.3 million over the past 10 years, the program has become a model of sustainable, community-driven environmental stewardship. Tree Montgomery began with the simple idea to plant more trees around the county. It has turned into one of our most successful environmental programs. Montgomery County has awarded more than $2 million in grants from the Maryland Energy Administration during the first half of 2025. The awards recognize energy efficiency, clean energy, and electric vehicle charging infrastructure, with additional emphasis on social and environmental benefits. Projects include solar canopies and EV chargers at the Shady Grove Transfer Station, lighting upgrades at key county buildings to boost safety and efficiency, energy transformation of the Holiday Park Senior Center, making it the first net zero county facility, EV charging stations at Montgomery College Germantown downtown and the Isaiah Leggett Executive Office Building, LED retrofits in Wheaton parking lots that support the Dark Skies Initiative. In February, the County Council adopted the Building Energy Performance Standards regulations, a crucial step toward reducing emissions from our largest buildings. Buildings covered under BEPS, which include most buildings 25,000 square feet or larger, those buildings account for approximately 30% of county building emissions and approximately 15% of county-wide emissions. And we accelerated our transition to a net zero vehicle fleet, adding new electric cars and ride-on buses, as well as increased charging infrastructure throughout the county. Between climate planning and fleet electrification and building standards, we made real progress this year, progress that will matter for decades. That is the first 5 on our top 10 list this year. Tune in next week for our top 5 of 2025. I appreciate you listening and happy holidays.